Hello, welcome to Coding Keywords. My name is Dr. Dejo, and today we're going to look at pivot tables and pivot charts. This is part of our Introduction to Excel course, and this is a course where you get to learn the basics of Excel and become quite knowledgeable about Excel and ready to use Excel for things like data analysis and automation. Welcome once again to Coding Keywords, and I'm going to share my screen straight away. So I just confirm that my screen is properly shared. Great. So far we have looked at we've had 8 modules. We first looked at the Excel interface, and then we looked at data entry. Remember, we said Excel is all about data. It's a tool and it's a software that helps us to manage data very well. So first of all, we need to enter our data or import our data into Excel. And then once we get our data into Excel, we need to check the formats. We need to know what our data is like. Is it numeric? Is it text? Is it dates? Is it a combination of them? And then we looked at basic calculation, which deals mostly with the numeric type of data. Those were our first 4 modules. And then module 5 to 8, we looked at cell references, which is important to understand when you're doing calculations, the absolute references, the relative references, the mixed references. And then we looked at data organization. And data organization has to do with tables. We saw table as an important feature. And then we looked at logical and conditional functions. We saw that there are certain times when we need to make decisions based on questions that we ask our data. And that's where we have the logical and conditional functions. We looked at the if statements. And then in our last module, we looked at dates and texts. Okay, so we looked at numeric data, we looked at dates, and we looked at text as well. All right, so today we're going to be looking at um, pivot tables and pivot charts. So we're going to understand what pivot tables are and why they are powerful. We're going to prepare data correctly for pivot tables, and we're going to build pivot tables from the scratch. So you might have or you might not have heard about pivot tables before, but I'd like to say that in my own opinion, pivot tables are the most powerful Excel feature for beginners. And so this class is going to be very interesting and very important, and you'd see why pivot tables are so powerful. This is like a build up, and this is like the should I say the climax of the build up so far in our learning Excel. We're going to see this powerful tool. And so we're going to see how we use pivot tables to summarize our data sets dynamically, create and customize pivot charts, and we're going to use pivot charts to visually analyze data. So we're going to work with filters, sorting. We're going to see the concept of grouping. And this module emphasizes summarization, pattern discovery, and dynamic reporting. So these are not really complex words to bamboozle you, but these are just some reasons why pivot tables are very powerful, and you're going to enjoy it. So I'm just going to do a quick check in the chat to be sure that I'm still sharing my screen and my mic is still fine. All right, so now let's look at pivot tables. So pivot tables are a tool for summarizing large data sets instantly and a way to answer business questions without formulas. So we've looked at formulas and functions, and we've seen how we can use them to get a lot of insight from our data, do computations, do manipulations, do lots of things using formulas and functions. But here we can use another tool, which are the pivot tables, without necessarily using functions. So it makes it kind of easy to do analysis, to do summaries on our data without necessarily writing functions or formulas. All right, so we've got our large data sets, and we can take large data sets and begin to explore them using pivot tables. So you've got a large data set, so many rows, so many columns. you want to do analysis, you want to explore, pivot tables help you dissect that data set and find the small sub tables or small sub data sets from that large data set. So it can help us do summaries. And so the pivot tables replace the manual totals, the repeated sum if or count if formulas, copy and paste summary. So without pivot tables, you would have to do a lot of other things like that will take you time will take your time. So you have to do lots of functions and formulas. So pivot tables replaces them very well. Okay, so it can help you do things like to answer total sales by region. So you've got a large data set with different regions and you want to find the sales by region, or you want to find the average revenue by products, or you want to count your transactions per month. The tables comes in very handy for you to do the summarizing of your data. They are powerful, they update automatically, they allow instant reorganization of your data, they reduce errors. And these are the rules now for pivot tables. You need one header row. So typically we've worked with one header row, no blank rows or columns. You want your consistent data types and no merge cells. In essence, what we're saying is that you should prepare your data, ensure your data is cleaned for you to get the best out of the pivot tables. And so convert your data. So the best practice now, convert your data to an Excel table before creating pivot tables. Remember, we've done that. We've done tables, organization. So you prepare your Excel data set as a table, and then you can go ahead to work with pivot tables. Now, consequences of poor structure. When you have poor structure, you have dirty data. These are the consequences. You're going to have missing fields, incorrect totals, and broken pivot charts. You don't want to have that. So ensure your data is clean, and then you go ahead to use the powerful features of this wonderful tool called pivot tables. So going straight ahead, and we're going to work with our data sets. And I'm just going to check the stream just to be sure everything is fine. Yes, I'm still sharing my screen and my sound is still okay. So whenever you get to watch this, even if it's after the stream, I want you to like this video. I want you to share. I also want you to comment. So I want to see, I want to hear from you and get a feedback on your Excel learning journey. All right, so I've got my data set and it looks like my data set doesn't have header. So I'm just going to add the header quickly when I copy it. So this is my data set 9A, pasting it shortly. So I'm just going to paste my data set here. This is it. And I'm just going to drag this title, just bring it here. So just have it here, and then I'm just going to have the title here. So this is the year. Sorry, this is an ID, and this is dates. This is the region. This is the country. This is the item. Okay, this is description. And then this is the amount. So I've got the header here. So remember, we said in the best practice, we should have one header row. So this is the row of the headers, and then this is the data. Great. So next thing now is I'm going to create a table. So first thing we said, best practice is to create a table. So I select the data set and I go over to insert tab, and I click on table. It's highlighting the selected range here, and I make sure my table has headers is selected, and I click on OK, and there you go. I've got in my table there. So this is the table. Remember, we have different styles, so I can decide to style it with another color, and this is it. Okay, so now these are data sets, and this works whether you have a very large data set or you have this small data set, which I have here for test purposes. All right, so you've got your data set, you set it up as a table, and the next thing now you want to start creating pivot tables out of it. Okay, so first of all, I want to create a pivot table that's showing the total revenue by region, and then to format, revenue as currency. Okay, so I'm going to call this revenue. Here I have it as amount, so let me just call it revenue. So this should be revenue. Okay, so we've got the ID of different transactions. It's the ID, and this is the date, and this is the region. We have different regions in the world. We have the countries, we have the items, we have the description, and we've got the revenue. So what happens is you've got your data set, and your data set has a whole lot of data. You've got data. So look at it here. We've got different dates, we've got different regions, we've got different countries, we've got different items. There's just so much categories. So what the pivot table helps you to do, it helps you to start exploring your data by exploiting the different categories. So first thing we're going to look at is we're going to take the region category, and we're going to be seeing how it can be summarized in terms of the revenue. So we're exploring our data. So what happens when you're using pivot tables is that you're taking parts of your data so that you can understand your data better. Because when you are faced with the entire data set, you can't understand it all at once. You have to start taking it little by little, bit by bit. And that's what the pivot table is all about. Okay, so we're taking total revenue by region. Let me just do a quick check in the stream to be sure my sound is still fine and I'm still sharing my screen. Okay, so what we're going to do, first thing we're going to do is select our data set. So I've selected the entire data set. That's it, they're selected. And then I go over to insert, and then the very first command there is a pivot table. So I click on pivot table. Okay, so this is pivot table. And then I've got first thing there is a table name. Okay, so for now it's just called table 2. I could give the table a name. Okay, so let me give the table a name. So I'm just going to come over here, select here, and then now remember, whenever you select from outside the table, so remember, you look at the tabs here. My last tab here is Power Pivot because I'm outside the table. The moment I select the table, I've got this temporary table design tab here. So when I click on the table design tab, I can go over to the table name and I can just call this um, international sales. International sales. So I'm just calling international sales. So that's my new table name. And I select the table, and then I go to insert, and then I click on pivot table, and there you go. You see, it's already highlighting international sales. And then I've got this option either to create a pivot table in a new worksheet or in existing worksheets. I'm going to choose existing. That's because I want to do everything here for us to see. I want to do everything here. So I'm choosing existing. So when you click on existing, you need to specify the location. And so I'm just going to click here. This is cell L13. So I'm clicking on L13. I just click on it and I click on OK. And I'm going to have my pivot table here. So I have everything here. Okay, so what do we want? We want to be able to show total revenue by region. Total revenue by region. Okay, so I like to look at it this way. We want to look at the regions, and for each region, we want to see the total revenue or the sum of the revenue. So I'm going to start with the region first. So the pivot table here shows me different fields, and the fields correspond to the different columns. Okay, so these are data sets. These are the columns. They're going to be represented here because you know that we selected this table to form our pivot table. So the pivot table fields will have all the columns here with the column headers outlined here. And then here we have a filter field, we have the rows, we have the columns, we have the values. Okay, so what's going to happen is we're going to put the main column that has the categories, in this case, the regions, we're going to push it to the rows. So just watch what's going to happen. This is where we're going to have our pivot table, and I'm going to push region. I'm going to drag it to rows. Now, can you see what happens here? Automatically, because I have under the rows, I have region. What has happened, it has gone to the region column, which is here, and has supplied all the categories here. Has supplied the categories. So these are all the categories in the region. If you check the filter, you would see we've just got 3: Americas, Asia, and Europe, and they are here. So what are we supposed to do? Let's go back again. We are supposed to create a pivot table showing the total revenue by region. showing the total revenue by region. All right, so next up, we're going to come to the revenue column. Okay, trace it here. This is the revenue, and I'm going to push it to the values here. Can you see that? Okay, so now let's look at this. These are pivot tables showing us the different categories of the regions and summing up the revenues for us. Okay, so let's look at it again. We've used the rows field and sorry, the rows section and the values section. In the rows section, we put the column that had categories, and that's usually going to be text data or date data. Okay, and then in our values, we put the revenue, which is numeric data. So you see, with pivot tables, we can take text columns, text data, find the categories or the groups, and then place them, and then use numeric data that can help us do some summarization of that text data in the values, and then we can do analysis. So we look over here and we see that Americas has 6,400 as the total, Asia has 2,700, and Europe has 11,900. So let's just look at it. So we've got Europe here. This is 4,500. Europe again, 2,200. That together gives us 6,700. And then we've got Europe here again, 5,200. So we have 6,700 plus 5,200, and that gives us what we have here, 11,900. So this is a good summary of these data sets, by considering the region and the revenue. Okay, so whenever I'm not selecting the pivot table, that pop-up doesn't show. But when I click on the pivot table, you see the pivot table fields shows for me to work on it. Okay, so this just a simple demonstration of how to create a pivot table. And next up, we want to format the revenue as currency. So we're going to come over here and do the formatting. So when I click on this, you see this is general, and I can just format it as currency. There you go. So currently it's pounds, and this is our pivot table. Okay, so I'm just going to check the stream. Yes. All right. So these are pivot table, and let me try to explain it in simple terms. When you've got a massive data set, it's going to be overwhelming if you are looking at the entire data set. So you've got your data set maybe for sales, maybe sales in a big supermarket, and then you've got all kinds of information in that data set. You've got maybe the date for sales, you've got maybe the salesperson, you've got the sale item, the units price, you've got the amounts, you've got the category of the item, some other special features, some other description, and you've got all kinds of information. Now, it's going to be difficult to take in all that data set at once. What do you have to do? You have to start exploiting categories. Categories is one keyword when it comes to analyzing your data or understanding your data. Very important. So for example, you've got this region column. So this is information about the region, but this region has categories, meaning that you have repetition. So you have Europe, that's one category. You've got Asia, that's another category. You've got Americas, that's one category. So once you've got your data set and you've got categories, then you use pivot tables. You want to say, okay, for this category, what's the sum? What's the average? Okay, so that's what pivot table is all about. It helps you to explore your data set by taking that large data set and beginning to zoom into it, beginning to explore it, to begin to find out more about that data set by exploiting the categories. Okay, so I've repeated certain words a lot of times just to let you know, the usefulness of pivot tables. And I consider this as the most powerful tool in Excel, especially for beginners. So you're just starting to get into Excel. Pivot tables give you a whole lot of power. Yes, I know we have the formulas and the functions, which are also very powerful, but the pivot tables with very short, in a short time, you can just move, set up the pivot table, move the things around, and you have powerful analysis of your data set. Okay, so that's what we have here. Let's see what we have next. Okay, so click anywhere inside the data set. Okay, so this is just the steps on how to do the pivot tables. Click anywhere, insert pivot table, we did that. Choose the worksheet versus new worksheet. Okay, so if we want to do a pivot table and we want it in another worksheet, then we would select the new worksheet option. And so we have the rows, the columns, the values, and the filter. So let me click on my pivot table again. So you've got rows, columns, and values and filters. And here we see the values. We've got sum of revenue. If I click on this drop down here, I can click on value field settings and change it from sum. So I can change it to average, and then it gives me the average. See, it's updated. It's giving me the average. And I can also do counts. Okay, so come over here, do counts, and then we've also got maximum, minimum, products. We've got all kinds of statistical operation we can do. Let me see with the counts. There you go. Okay, it's the count, but because I formatted it as a currency, it's showing me the pound sign there. So let me go back and do sum. Now we've got the sum, the count, and the average. Those are like some of the common things we can use to summarize our text category column. Okay, so we may want to find the totals for each category in the region. We might want to find the average. So when we're looking at the average, we're looking at something different. And then we might just want to count. Okay, so the sum, the average, the count. These are ways we explore our data easily. So next up, we have the fields are draggable. We saw that, okay? So we can drag them, okay? So I can drag this from rows to columns, and you see it's different, okay? So they are draggable. We can drag the items. Okay, so let me remove the region. I can drag the region down. You see, I can also drag the dates. I can move it around, okay? So let me just take that off for now. All right, so we can drag them. They are draggable. And the pivot tables are interactive, not static. They are interactive. We're going to see that. And that's why it's so powerful. All right. And then we talked about the different value calculations. I just highlighted the sum, the count, the average, max and mean. And you see, you can quickly check your data sets, portions of the data set, and explore them, without having to write formulas. Remember, we saw how to use, the different formulas, numeric and related functions. Now you don't need to write formulas. All you need to do is just fill up the different as areas here of the pivot table, and you can do your exploration. All right, so we can change the value field settings. Yes, we just saw that. And then we can also format the numbers correctly. We saw how to set it up as currency. Now, confusing count with sum. Very important. Very important. So let's look at our data set again. Let's look at data set again. And then we've got our region. So I'm just going to click on this. We've got our region. And you see we've got Europe, Europe, Europe. So we've got 3 rows of our data that has Europe as the region. So the count is 3. But for Europe, we've got the corresponding revenue. So the first one is 4,500, the second one is 2,200, and the third one is 5,200. So we might want to count the total revenue, sum up the total revenue for Europe. That's different from counting how many occurrences of Europe we have in our data set. So it's very important. Sometimes what you want is the count, and sometimes what you want is the total. You need to know what exactly you want, and then set it up in your pivot table accordingly. So by default, it usually brings up the sum. You see it here, sum. But then if you want to change it, you just go to the value field settings and then you change it. So next I want to show the revenue by region and products. Okay, and then identify the highest performing products per region. Okay, so this just by region. So first of all, we check the revenue by region. So now I want to check the revenue by region and products. Okay, so let me check the stream. Yes. Okay, so please, I want some feedback in the chats. Please let me know if you've learned something new and we want us to look at in subsequent videos. And I also want to also mention that the data set for this live session is going to be available in a link in the chat. So just after this live session, you can click on the a comment. I'm going to put a comment in. I'm going to put a comment and put the link there, and you can click on it and get the data set and practice as well. Okay, so next up we have revenue by region and products. Here we have revenue by region. So we've got region and we've got the revenue. Now we want revenue by region and product. So we see that this is like one dimension. Now we have two dimensions. Okay, so I'm going to select my data set. Okay, sorry. I'm going to, okay, so now I've got this pivot table here. If I want another pivot table in this same sheet, all I need to do is copy a pivot table I have, go to another cell where I want the new one and paste it. Okay, so I've got this other one here. This one is still highlighted. I can just press escape so there's no interference. And here I have duplicated. Here I have revenue by region, but I want revenue by region and products. All right, so this is the product here or item. So I don't just want revenue by region. I also want revenue by region and products. So I'm going to go over to this item here, which is for the product, and I'm going to move it over to the columns. And there you go. You can see that. So powerful. We're just dragging. I just dragged it and there you go. It's done this powerful exploration of my data set for me. This is what I have. And here you see that I can see from here that for the keyboard item or products, there was no sales to the Americas region. There was 1,500 to Asia and there was none to Europe. And here for laptop, I can see I have an entry for Americas and Europe. And for monitor, just Europe. For the mouse, I just have Asia. And for the printer, I just have America. So you see, I'm able to transform these data sets into another kind of view. Here, I'm able to just inspect not everything. I'm not interested with the dates now, the dates. I'm not interested with this description here. I'm just taking region, item or product, and revenue. And this is the representation I have. Okay, so this is another pivot table. This is more like two layers because I have something on the row and also another thing on the columns. And then I'm checking them by looking at the total revenue. So now identify the highest performing product per region. Okay, so identify the highest performing product per region. All right, so we look at it here. So we look at keyboard here and we see that yes, so keyboard is only Asia. And we can see the laptop here, the highest here is Europe. And then we see the monitor here, just Europe as well. Mouse is Asia and the printer is America. So here we can identify it clearly. All right, so we can also do several other things on our data set. So let me come over to this first pivot table here. Sorry, on our pivot tables. Now, assuming we want to arrange it in such a way that we have the highest revenue here, all we need to do is just come over, select this data set, which is a sum of revenue, and then I can right click, and then right clicking, I can sort it. Okay, so I've got an issue here. Okay, so my sorting is not highlighted. Let me see, show values as summarize values by. Okay, so for some reason, it's not allowing me to sort. Okay, let me okay, so now I'm going to go to ChatGPT because one of the things we have looked at so far in this introduction to Excel series is the fact that when we're learning these tools or when we're learning programming or learning anything in tech, we should take advantage of our information sources like ChatGPT, and we've seen it from time to time. So I'm going to go to ChatGPT and I'm going to ask ChatGPT why I have a pivot table, I've got a numeric column, and I'm trying to sort it, and that option is not highlighted. And then I'm going to see what ChatGPT would advise me about that. So I'm going to ChatGPT. Okay, I believe this is still being shared. Okay, so I'm just going to go quickly and say, I have a pivot table in Excel and there is a sum of revenue column when I try to sort it in descending order, the sort option is not highlighted for me. What could be the problem? Okay, I probably have encountered this problem before, and but I don't have the time now to start trying to figure it out. So it says when the sort option is grayed out in a pivot table is usually due to one of these common issues. Okay, so it's either you're clicking the wrong area. Okay, and so if you click the sum of revenue column header itself, sorting may be disabled. Instead, click on a number inside that column, which I did. Okay, so I selected them. Oh, you selected multiple cells. Okay, was that what I did? And then the pivot table is tabular outline layout. Okay, sheet protection is on. All right, these are some of the issues. So you can see that. Okay, so the reason why it's not working for me is one of those issues. Let me see. I just select one cell, sort, and there you go. So can you see that something as simple as I ought to have selected just one cell and not all of them? These are not things you should necessarily cram. Okay, so whenever you're stuck, just take advantage of AI or Google. And so I've just selected one cell and then I'm sorting from largest to smallest, and there you go. You see, the largest there is Europe, and then we have Americas, and then we have Asia. Okay, so there's just one thing we have learned. So what I'm just trying to show you here is that rather than learning, okay, rather than just learning, I know how to do this in Excel, the most important thing you need, oh, my screen is not shared. Wow. Okay. All right, so that's the feedback. Is my screen shared now? Uh, so can I get feedback now in the chat if it's sharing now? It looks to me like it's sharing. Okay. See, okay now. Okay, so please, I want the feedback in the chat if my screen is visible now. Can you see my screen? So just to confirm if you can see the Excel, um, window. Wow, still not available. Okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing and then restart again. Okay, so thank you for that. So please let me know if it's visible now. Okay, so please, I'd like the feedback in the chat. Uh, Okay, thank you very much. So my screen is back. So I really don't know where I lost that screen sharing. So I'm just going to go back. So I'm not too sure where I lost it, whether it's from the ChatGPT side, but here I have, so I'm just going to go over again. So I've got this data set here. This has international sales transactions, and selecting the data set, going to the insert tab and clicking on pivot tables gives me this dialog box for me to be able to create a pivot table. And I can choose to have my pivot table in an existing worksheet. And then I click on the cell. If I want it in this same sheet, I click on the cell. It gives me the cell details there. And I click on OK. And OK, I can't do that because I've got some other pivot tables there. So I'm just going to click on pivot tables and existing worksheet. And let me go by the side here. And you see, I can put a pivot table there. I can put a pivot table there. So this is where the pivot table will be. So now let me delete this. So that was how, okay, I'll just ignore that. So that was how we're able to create these pivot tables. Now for this one, what we did, okay, so I'm selecting this and I have to click on field lists. Okay, so because I closed it, the field list wasn't selected again. So I have my field list here, and here I've just taken the region column and the revenue column. So the region column to rows, the revenue column to value, and the total revenue. Oops. Okay, so just to be sure I'm back. All right, and the total revenue. So that's what we have here. And then in this second pivot table, you see, in the first one, I just got region and sum of revenue. In the second one, I've got region, item, and sum of revenue. The region is in the rows, the item is in the columns, and the sum of revenue is in the values. And so that's what I have in this second pivot table. Okay, so just back to the stream to be sure everything is fine. And then let's go over to our next. And next, we're going to be looking at our pivot table operations. We can filter by category, can sort our values from largest to smallest. We can use report filters. Okay, so let's see how to use the filters. We see that the pivot tables comes with the filter. So it comes with a filter. So you see there's a filter on the row label here. So I can click on this filter, and there you see I'm able to see the different categories. Assuming I want to see just Asia and Europe, I deselect Americas, and there you go. I've just got Asia and Europe. So it means that I can do my exploration first of all by taking only the region, the item or product, and the revenue columns. 3 out of all the columns are there. I just take 3. I put the first one in the rows, the second one in the columns, and the last one as the values. Usually the numeric will be the values. Okay, so region as the rows, item as the columns, and then within them, I have the revenue as the values. And then I can still go further to say, I don't want every category in the region. I only want Asia and Europe. And you see, I've just been able to do that. Okay, and then I can come even to the column labels and say, I don't want all of them. I just want the mouse and the keyboard, and I select them accordingly. And there you go, you see. So what it shows is how you can, you see what I've done? I've just sliced my data sets further more by doing the filtering operations. So let me just remove the filters. Previously, we're also able to see how to do the sorting. We're able to saw how to do the sorting, and we did that on this first pivot table here. So all we needed to do was just select a cell. So once you select the cell, right click, and then we come over to sort, and we can sort it. It's currently sorted from largest to smallest, so I can sort it from smallest to largest. So that's how to do the sorting. Okay, so that's sorting there, and we have seen how to use the filters as well. Okay, so now this is what I want to say. Typically, once you've got your data sets, filters help you do the first kind of exploration. So you've got filters, then you've got pivot tables. Okay, so pivot table is another type of filtering operation, but filtering by grouping. Okay, so that's what we're seeing. Grouping dates by month, quarter, year, grouping numeric ranges. Okay, we're going to see that. And then group revenue by month, then regroup by quarter. Okay, we're going to see that. And then grouping is where pivot tables become analytical. So it's just all about grouping. It's all about creating groups from the categories of your data set. So now we're going to look at how to do pivot tables using dates. We're going to look at how to do pivot tables using dates. Okay, so we're going to do this next pivot table in another sheet. So we're going to see how to use another sheet for a pivot table. Just a quick check in the stream to be sure everything is fine. My screen is no more visible. Oh my. Oh my, oh my, oh my. This is really a bit of trouble today. My screen is no more visible. Okay, so I'm going to stop my screen share. Okay, I'm just going to share this window specifically. Please, I need a feedback now. So if you can see my screen now. Just let me know if you can see my screen now. So I just need the feedback. The screen is okay, so I can go ahead. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. So yeah, so my screen is back, and I'm just wondering where I lost. Oh no, this is terrible today. I don't know what's happening with the screen shares, but let's see how to still do another pivot table, this time with our dates. So now we want to look at the dates. So I'm going to create a new pivot table, first of all, by selecting my data set, and I go to Insert tab and I click on Pivot Table. And I'm going to create a pivot table in a new worksheet. So it's going to be done in a new worksheet. So I'm leaving it at new worksheet. No need to select the location. And I click on OK. And I have a new worksheet here. And it's created as sheet 1. And I'm going to create my pivot table here. So let me go back to lesson. And my date is in the date column. So going to come over here and I'm going to take the date and place it in the row. Okay. And then I'm going to take the revenue and place it in the values. So what we've seen here is that automatically Excel has broken down the dates into months and days for me. So we've got months, days for me. So that's what happens. Okay. So usually um, Excel would split the dates into the categories. So remember the dates have the date, the month, and if it's across several years, you also have a year category. So just by moving the dates to the rows, it has given me that option. And there you have this nice looking pivot table there. And that's the concept of grouping. So let's look at our data set again. Our data set had different days. So we've got all of them are 2024. So, and then we got in January, in February, in March. Okay, so that's our data set. And just imagine if you've got very large data sets with so many years, across different months, and then you appreciate the grouping much, much better. So let's go back there. So this is it. We have different groups. For January, this is the total revenue. For February, this is the total revenue. For March, this is the total revenue. What have we done? Let's go back to our data set. So in our data set, we've got date, region, country, item, description, revenue. We've taken just the dates and the revenue. We're not concerned now to investigate anything about the region or the country or the item. We just want the dates, we want the revenue. We want to know how much came in each day. And that is what we have in this nice looking pivot table here. And then I can zoom it so we can see it better. So we have it like this. And then this is grouped as you can see. So I can click on this plus there and you can see within January, I've got 2. Within February, I've got 2. And within March, I've got 3. So you can see that this is a pivot table. And we can see more details as we keep keep clicking on the groups there. Okay, so this is how to use the pivot tables to work on our dates data. Remember that we can come over here, do our sorting depending on how we want. So if we want to sort it in from smallest to largest or largest to smallest, we can click. Okay, so it's already sorted from smallest to largest. And then we can also do some formatting. So I can come here and format it. This is just a combination of different things we've done before, and I can format it as currency. You see that. And then we can do other things. Now, I've always highlighted the fact that whenever we create some new tools in Excel, like the table or the pivot table, we would have additional tabs. So now I'm outside the pivot table, and my last tab here is a power pivot. The moment I click on the pivot table, there you go. I've got the pivot table analyze and the design. So if I click on the pivot table analyze, I can set up different things. Okay, can set up different things. Now let me introduce something to you, which is a slicer. So I can click on this slicer here, and I want a slicer, and this slicer is going to be country. So I'm just going to do a country slicer. Okay, let me add another slicer for item. So I've got 2 slicers. Okay, so here are 2 slicers here. Now let me say that First of all, just check the stream to be sure. So check the stream to be sure I'm not disconnected. Okay, thankfully I'm still here. Okay, all right. Okay, so now let me say something very important here, just to help us understand. I'm going to go back here, and this is the data set. This is the data set, and like I said, you can do simple filtering. You can filter on any column and see the categories. So filtering is like a basic level of inspection. The next level is the pivot table, which is what I have here. So you have the data sets, you have filter, then you can go further to inspect using the pivot table. When you are filtering on one column. When you have your pivot table, you are doing exploration on at least two. So you have two columns, and then you investigate and explore. You can filter on that. So you've got filter, you've got pivot table. Then the next level is the slicer. The slicer is when you add another column to inspect. Okay, so we have our slicer here, and here we have the different countries. We can decide that we want to see information for revenue according to the dates for just France and Germany. So let's see that. Okay, so I just select France, and there you go. For France alone, the only entry is in February, and the sum is 2,200. So can you see that's another layer of inspection? Now let me say I want Germany. This is what we have. Now I can come over here and click on this. So when I select this, I'm able to select more than one. So for Germany, it's in January. For France, it was in February. Now for France and Germany, I can highlight that. And then you can see this slicer is also updated. So it's showing it's just laptop and monitor. Now let me select France alone. France alone is in February, and it's just monitor. For France and Germany, we have laptop and monitor. So let me go back and see. This is a data set, and you can see, let me trace France. This is France, okay? Only one entry, and we see this is February, and it's monitor. So you see that I'm able to explore my data set and interpret it much, much better using the pivot table and also the slicer as well. So now when I click on this slicer, I've got this extra tab here, and then I can set up some setting. So for example, I can say that in my slicer setting, once there is no data, it should hide it, and there you go. So you see it's hidden now. So for France, I can clearly see it's just monitor. For France and India, I can see it's keyboard and monitor. If I Okay, apologies for that disconnection. I'm back again, so I'm just going to share my screen, and we will be rounding up soon. So we've been able to see how to do all kinds of inspection and data using the pivot table and the slicer. And then we have seen different pivot tables, first with text-based columns and also with our dates column as well. So grouping is where pivot tables become analytical. And this is kind of like the foundation for analysis. So you almost never do data analysis in Excel without using pivot tables. And one thing I also say is that you find out that whether you're doing your analysis in Excel or SQL or Python, you always want to group. So when you're doing data analysis, you want to group. So you will see something similar to pivot tables in SQL. Okay, so you're going to see grouping in SQL. You're also going to see some form of grouping of your data set in Python as well. But then you see with Excel, it's easier to use because you can see your data set visually, and then you can quickly do your grouping operation um, and start your analysis as well. All right, so we're going to be rounding up, and finally we're going to look at the pivot charts. Okay, so with the pivot tables, we're able to have our data sets explored, dissected, or filtered out, in a tabular form that we can see. All right, so it's still in tables. But then we would appreciate it better, or would appreciate it in a different dimension when we start taking advantage of charts. So we're going to see visual representations of our pivot tables. We're going to see charts, and we're going to see how they update automatically. So we're going to create a pivot chart from our pivot table. And then, okay, so we're going to see, sorry, yes, we're going to see our pivot charts. And then we've got different types of charts. So we've got the column, the bar, the line, and the pie. And then, okay, so now we're going to convert our revenue by region pivot table into a column pivot chart, and then we're going to convert it to a bar chart later on. Okay, so this is our first pivot table here, which is revenue by region. Okay, back to the stream, sure everything is fine. Okay, so now this is our pivot table here. We have revenue by region. Sorry, I'll keep repeating and repeating and repeating because you get to learn it better by repetition. So this is our data set here. You've got your data set. This is a simple data set for just for the purposes of this exercise. But in practice, you're going to have a massive data set if you're dealing with, like a big organization. You've got this massive data set, so many rows, so many columns. You can't do much like that. So you've got to simplify things by exploring the data set in smaller portions. And so what did we do? We took the region column and the revenue column, two columns out of all the columns we have. And then we explored based on them, and that gave us this pivot table here. This pivot table is telling us that in this region column, we have only three categories: Asia, Americas, Europe. And then for each of them, we found the sum. And we saw that we could find the sum, we could do counting, we can also do average, we can find the max, the mean. We can do that using the pivot table. So now we're going to see how we are going to represent this using a chart. So what do? I'm going to come over here, select this. This is the pivot table in question. And you see, I have two tabs, two temporary tabs here. If I click outside, those tabs are not there. I click on this, the tabs are there. Remember, with the pivot table analyze, you can do all kinds of things on your pivot table. We inserted the slicer not too long ago. Now I'm going to click on design. Okay, sorry. Design is even how the pivot table looks. It's in this pivot table analyze. I come over to the pivot charts. Okay, so I click on pivot charts. And first thing I'm going to do is make that a column. So you see, it's already recommending this clustered column for me. And I can just click on the clustered column. And this is my clustered column. Now, this gives you an idea. If you've been wondering how I do my presentations in Excel, this gives you an idea. This gives you an idea. So I'm just going to tell you that I use slicers, I use pivot tables that you don't get to see, and to actually create my presentation in Excel that you see like that. So I'm actually using pivot tables to support my teaching here. So this is the chart. Now, this is a column chart, and this is visually representing this pivot table here. So we've got Asia here, we've got Americas here, we've got Europe here, and then you see. Now, if I click on this, okay, so click on the charts, click on this, I'm able to adjust so many things. I can remove the axis, you see. I can put a title there, okay, the axis titles. I can remove the chart title, and then I can adjust so many things. I can remove the grid lines, I can remove the legends, so many things that I can do. I can go over to the data labels and change where they are. Okay, so keeping them in the center. Here I have the data labels, and then I can go further, click on them, and change them. You see, it's a bit highlighted. I can increase the size. There are so many things that I can do. But this is just a chart. So this is a chart that gives me a visual representation of what I have as a table here. And then you appreciate this is another way of looking at it. So I can see Europe has the highest and Asia has the lowest. Let me just check in the stream again, just to be sure that I'm okay and I'm not disconnected. Okay, I think everything is fine. And then I'm back. So here we have a column pivot chart, and then I can change this to a bar chart. Okay, so this is a column pivot chart, and then I can just click on it. So clicking on this gives me the pivot chart analyze, and then I can okay, all right, let me see the options here. Okay, so I think I'm just going to do a right click. I can't seem to find where it is. Okay, so I can right click it, and there I have change chart type, and I can just change it to bar. So that's the bar chart there, and you can see the difference. You can see the difference. Okay, so you can compare. I think for this one, I prefer the column chart. So this is the bar charts. In the bar charts, you have the text axis on the left like this, and then you have the numeric axis horizontally. All right, so that's just a simple charts, and then the pivot chart still linked to pivot tables. We're going to see something very interesting soon. And we see we can change the chart types, which you just saw. We can edit the chart titles, we can format the axis, we can do a whole lot of things. I have videos. If you check my channel, you're going to see videos on data analysis, data visualization, and you're going to see videos on how we do a lot of extensive work on our pivot charts, and also how we create dashboards as well. So this is the best practice. One message per chart. Have clear titles and consistent scales. And then pivot charts are preferred over regular charts for analysis. And pivot tables do not auto update. Okay, we're going to see something about that. And then, okay, yes, we're going to see the difference between refresh and refresh all. Okay, so we're going to see that. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a few things on my data sets just to wrap up. Okay, so this is my data sets. Let me go back to this stream. Sorry, I have to keep going back to the stream just to be sure that I'm not disconnected like I've seen a couple of times. Now let's go back, and we're going to see some things about auto updating and all of that. So this is my data set. Now I'm going to do something. I'm going to come here and I'm going to make this 2025. So this 2025, and this one too, I'm going to make it 2025. So what it means is that my data set has changed. You see, I've got 2024 all through before, now I have 2024 and 2025. And then I'm going to come here and I'm going to make it no more France. Okay, so instead of France here, I'm going to write which country now? Spain. So I'm going to write Spain, and instead of India, I'm going to write China. Now I've updated my data set. I updated my data set, but you can see that okay. All right, so let me also, yeah, for China, okay, this is Asia. Okay, so now let me add Australia. Okay, so let me add Australia. So I'm going to come over, instead of Germany, I'm going to have Australia. And the region too, I'm updating it as Australia. So just to show you, because I have my database on regions, you see Australia did not automatically appear here. Everything is still the way it is. So I need to update the pivot table once I change my data set. So I'm just going to click on my my pivot table here, and let me come over to pivot table analyze, and then I come over to refresh. So let me click here. There's refresh and refresh all. If I click on refresh all the pivot tables and the pivot charts in the data set will be refreshed. But I'm just going to click on refresh so that only this one is refreshed. And there you go. You can see that. Okay. Okay, this one was also refreshed as well. So, okay, so refresh this one and this one. So yeah, we have Asia, Australia, Americas, and Europe, and the same thing here as well. So just to take note, once you modify your data set, you need to refresh before the pivot tables are refreshed. Finally, I'm just going to come over here and let me delete this slices for now. So just delete this slicer, and this has not been refreshed. This has not been refreshed. Yes, okay, maybe I think it has. Let me check if this is matched. So, but I'm just going to come click on this and go over here, and let me just refresh all. Okay, so this is refreshing all. And then now I'm going to deselect the dates, deselect days and months, and then I just add the day again. Okay, now I need to add the year. So let me right click and then go to group, and then I can select years as well. And I could even say I want the quarters as well. So just observe what happens. And then I click on this and there you go. So you see I've got the updated grouping. So now I have 2024 and I have 2025. And then I've got the quarter as well. So everything is in quarter one. So you can group by quarter, you can group by month, you can group by year. Now, I just showed you what to do if it doesn't automatically give you the year. Remember, I gave me the month and the days with the previous data set. So you just come, right click, click on group, and then it can help you do your grouping. All right, so let me now do something interesting here. Just a final thing. I'm going to create a chart from this. So I'm just going to do a pivot chart, and this is just going to be a simple column chart here. So this is a column chart that just shows 2024 and 2025. So I've just got that here. And I'm just going to remove the title, so there'll be a bit more space. So I remove the title, so there's a bit more space. I remove the axis as well. And okay, so I have this here. Now, I'm also going to remove, sorry, just remove all of this. Okay, all right, just to demonstrate something. So we got this here. I can come over here, click on this one, and make a different color. So let me see, it's the fill. Okay, select this, click on the fill, and I can just make this red. Okay, both of them are red. All right, so I can select one. Okay, hopefully this should work for just one. All right, so you see I made this blue and I made this red. So you can do all kinds of things to make your analysis or your exploration easier to grasp. Okay, so now I'm going to add a slicer. So add a slicer, and this is my slicer. And let me just add the slicer by country. Okay, just a slicer for the country. Okay, and this is a slicer. And what I'm going to do here is that I want to make the values visible. Okay, so I'm just going to add these data labels here. All right, so that's the data labels. Excellent. So we've got the data labels here that shows the values, and this is everything. So in 2024, we had £13,200. In 2025, we have £7,800. I'm going to come here and make this such that I can select only one. Okay, so yes, so now I can select only one, and there you go. So you see, selecting only Australia, I have 4,500, and it's 2024. Canada is 2,600. So you see, this is dynamic, this is interactive, this is Spain, this is Japan, this is China. And let me make it such that I can add more than one. So China and Japan is a total. Let me add Spain and China. See, this is a total. Now let me add Australia. Trying to see one for 2025. So let me add Canada. Yes, and there you go. So that is just a simple demonstration of how you can use your pivot table, your pivot chart, your slicer, and how this can help. Now you see why I said this is the most powerful tool. For me, it's the most powerful tool in Excel, especially as a beginner. This is something you should learn. This is something that can help you a lot in doing your analysis. Okay, so that just pretty much brings us to the end of today's module. So today we're able to look at what I call the most powerful tool in Excel. At this level, you as a beginner, which is a pivot table and a pivot chart. I want to apologize for the disconnection. So we had disconnections, and also with the screen as well. I just pretty much hope that it was okay and convenient to watch despite all the disconnections. There were times when I had to go back, I had to review. I hope that you were able to get something, from today's class. This is pivot tables, pivot charts. This is something you need to learn if you want to master Excel and take advantage of the features I has. And like I always say, yes, you can use AI for a whole lot of things. You can use AI. AI can simplify a lot of things for you, but AI is much more useful to you when you understand the basics. So it's good to go through this introduction to Excel module, which we have done, and go through each of them, go through all the videos and master the basics of Excel. Once you have done that, it becomes easier for you to use AI to support what you do. And you see, we used it today. We kind of stopped a bit and we went to AI for assistance and we're able to get solution to that. So once again, my name is Dr. Adejo and I'm the lead instructor at Coding Keywords. And this has been the introduction to Excel course, which has 10 modules. This is the ninth module. We've got one more module to cover the complete beginner course for Excel. And here at Coding Keywords, what we try to do is to make things simple. This is the Excel Made Simple course. We make it simple by showing you the keywords. So it's a keyword concept. We try to show you what's the most important thing you should focus on, what's the priority, what's the foundation of each area, and that guides you on how you can learn these things easily. And this helps very well whether you're learning Excel, so whether you're learning Excel or you're learning Python or you're learning data analysis or you're learning Canva, using our keyword approach, it's easy to master these things quickly. So I want you to stay connected on this channel. I want you to subscribe to the channel because we have lots of videos, lots of resources for you. I want you to like this video. I want you to share it. I want your comments. We've got several things we want to teach. So with your comments, we'll be able to know what we should handle next. Okay, so do we go over to machine learning or Python or what do we do? So I want that feedback and stay connected. See you in the next module. And I'm just about giving you a tip here. We're going to have a module where I do like 30 minutes, and within that 30 minutes, I summarize the whole 10 modules and I show you the most important things you need to learn in Excel as a beginner in 30 minutes. So looking forward to having that live session with you. Thank you very much for joining, and bye.